Have you ever wondered if the US dollar, the king of global currencies for nearly a century, could ever be dethroned? It's a question that's been whispered in financial circles for years, but now it's being shouted from the rooftops. The reason? A powerful group of nations known as BRICS. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And they're not just talking. They're making moves. Big moves. So, what exactly is the BRICS master plan? And is it truly the beginning of the end for the dollar's dominance? Let's break it down. For decades, the world has run on dollars. International trade, oil sales, foreign reserves, almost everything was priced and settled in greenbacks. This gave the United States incredible economic and political power. It's what we call dollar hegemony. But this system also comes with risks for other countries. When the US Federal Reserve changes interest rates, the whole world feels it. And when the US uses financial sanctions, it can cut entire nations off from the global economy. This dependency has made many countries uncomfortable. And that's where BRICS comes in. Originally just an acronym coined by an economist, BRICS has evolved into a serious political and economic alliance. These nations represent over 40% of the world's population and a significant chunk of global GDP. They're tired of playing by rules they didn't write. Their goal is simple, yet revolutionary: to create a new, multipolar world order where the US dollar is no longer the only game in town. So, what's their plan? Step 1 was creating their own financial institutions. In 2014, they launched the new development bank, often called the BRICS Bank, and the Contingent Reserve Arrangement. Think of these as their alternatives to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, or IMF. These institutions were designed to lend money for infrastructure and provide financial support to member countries. But with a key difference: they operate without the political strings often attached to Western-led institutions. They offer loans in local currencies, which is a huge first step in reducing reliance on the dollar. But that was just the beginning. The next, and much more ambitious, phase is what everyone is talking about now: de-dollarization. This is the process of actively moving away from the US dollar in international trade. How are they doing it? By striking bilateral trade deals that completely bypass the dollar. For example, India is now buying oil from the UAE and paying in rupees. China and Brazil have an agreement to settle their massive trade flows in their own currencies, the yuan and the real. Russia, facing heavy Western sanctions, has been forced to trade in currencies like the yuan and the ruble. Each of these deals, on its own, might seem small, but when you add them all up, a clear pattern emerges. These aren't isolated incidents. They are part of a coordinated strategy. The BRICS nations are building a new financial architecture, one transaction at a time. It's like building a parallel highway system. For a long time, the dollar was the only superhighway everyone had to use. Now, BRICS is building its own network of roads, allowing countries to trade with each other directly, without ever needing to merge onto the dollar highway. And the alliance is growing. In a historic move, BRICS recently expanded, inviting major energy players like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Iran, along with Egypt and Ethiopia. This is a game changer. Why? Because the petrodollar system, the agreement that oil would be sold in US dollars, has been a cornerstone of the dollar's dominance since the 1970s. By bringing the world's biggest oil producers into the fold, BRICS is directly challenging that system. If Saudi Arabia starts accepting other currencies for its oil, like the Chinese yuan, it could trigger a seismic shift away from the dollar. Now, for the million-dollar question, or maybe the million-yuan question: are they creating a new single BRICS currency? This is the most hyped-up part of the plan, and also the most complex. The idea of a common currency, possibly backed by gold or a basket of commodities, has been floated. Imagine a world where international goods are priced in this new BRICS unit instead of dollars. It would be the most direct challenge to the dollar yet. However, let's be realistic. Creating a single currency is incredibly difficult. Just look at the euro. It took decades of political and economic integration. The BRICS nations are incredibly diverse, with different political systems, economic priorities, and levels of development. India and China have their own rivalries. Would Brazil trust a currency controlled by a committee in Beijing or Moscow? It's a huge challenge. So a full-blown BRIC coin might be a long way off. What is more likely in the short term is a common payment system or a unit of account for trade between them, without it being a currency you can hold in your hand. This would still achieve the goal of sidestepping the dollar for their own transactions. Think of it less as a new global king and more as a powerful regional currency alliance. So back to our main question: is the US dollar dying? Dying is probably too strong a word. The dollar is not going to disappear overnight. It's deeply embedded in the global financial system. The US has the largest and most liquid financial markets in the world. Trillions of dollars in debt are denominated in US dollars, and central banks around the world still hold the majority of their reserves in dollars. Untangling all of that would be messy and take a very, very long time. However, to say nothing is changing would be naive. The dollar's status as the undisputed global reserve currency is definitely being challenged. We are moving from a unipolar, dollar-centric world to a multipolar world with multiple currency blocks. The dollar will likely remain a major currency, perhaps the most important one, for years to come. But it will have to share the stage. Its share of global reserves and trade settlement is already slowly but surely declining. What does this mean for you? Well, a world less dependent on the dollar could mean more volatility. Exchange rates might fluctuate more. The cost of imported goods could change. For the US, it could mean the end of what's been called its exorbitant privilege, the ability to borrow cheaply and run large deficits because the world needs its dollars. This could lead to higher inflation and interest rates in the US in the long run. The BRICS master plan ends into a Hollywood movie plot where the dollar collapses in a single day. It's a slow, methodical chipping away at the foundations of dollar dominance. It's the rise of alternative systems, the forging of new alliances, and a fundamental shift in global economic power. The era of unquestioned dollar supremacy is likely drawing to a close, and the era of currency competition is just beginning. What we are witnessing is not necessarily the death of the dollar, but the birth of a new, more complex and multipolar financial world. And that's a story that is still being written. Thanks for watching. What are your thoughts on the future of the dollar and the rise of BRICS? Let me know in the comments below. And if you found this breakdown helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the forces shaping our world. See you in the next one.